when it comes to the content development, it's really, really critical to think about the various objectives and creating purposely and intentionally creating a number of assets that can all seamlessly work together. So maybe something more cinematic for the big screen, but creating complementary or adjacent shoppable content, social content, display and media content from a brand and an advertising perspective, and thinking about how all of that works better together. And in fact, that's what we're already seeing. We're seeing that the sum of its parts is actually significantly more effective.
Explore the minds and marketing strategies behind today's winning brands and businesses. Tap into the power of the creator economy with Earned by CreatorIQ. Here's Conor Begley.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Earned. This week we have a special episode all the way from the Cannes Festival in France. Guest hosting is our very own Chris Curtis. Enjoy the episode, guys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special edition of the Earn podcast. This week, we are here out in Cannes at the International Festival of Creativity, where we'll be sitting down with a few different partners from Amazon, both on the creative solution side as well as the Amazon Live side. But before we actually get into the content, we're actually here with a very special announcement that CreatorIQ is now an Amazon Ads partner. CreatorIQ is now in the Amazon Ads program as a creative and brand experiences partner. We could not be more thrilled to be taking this next step in our partnership with Amazon, and incredibly excited for what the future holds, not only for CreatorIQ, for Amazon, but also for our shared clients. So tune into the content. We're very excited for some very interesting and thoughtful conversations with different members of the Amazon teams. We're lucky enough today to be joined by Julie Haleluk, who is the head of growth for Amazon shopping videos. It's so wonderful to meet you, Julia.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And how has your festival been so far?
It's been pretty incredible. It's electric. There's so much going on, so many people to talk to. There's so much growth happening all around. So it's a great place to be.
And you've had some pretty interesting news to share that we'll get into a little bit throughout the course of the week.
We do have some news, and we are very excited about it.
And I know that our listeners are incredibly excited to hear about the announcement and what this will mean for them. But before we get into, the announcement, the news, I'd love for you to maybe give our audience just a little bit of information, about your background. Knowing you started, I think, on the agency side, you worked in the telecom space. Now you're helping lead Amazon video efforts. I'd love to maybe kind of hear your story from your perspective.
Would love to. So I have a kind of an interesting trajectory. I started on the agency side, and it was a small agency, so I got to have my hand in so many things, which was a great way to really learn. And one day I got a call. My client was hiring, and I moved from agency side to client side, and I went to DirecTV. It was such a cool time to be in entertainment as a distributor because I was working for a satellite TV provider, but everyone was talking about the adoption of mobile entertainment and so on and so forth, and all of that was growing. That's also how I landed at AT&T, which was a telecom. And so, I've done a lot of, product work and marketing work, BD, all the things, which has been really fun and really set me up for this new role. But I've been at Amazon now for 2 years, and I lead the growth organization for Amazon Shopping Videos, which is essentially our marketing and business development monetization functions.
I love talking with people that really kind of started in the agency space because I think it gives you a really kind of well-rounded perspective, especially, going from an agency, then to a not so small telecom company, right? I'm sure it brings you a lot of kind of insight when you talk to partners and vendors and internal teams of really kind of seeing every side of the table and understanding each perspective from each stakeholder.
What I learned from the agency side, especially working for a small agency where you have to have your hand in everything, is this appreciation for really building and how to juggle a million balls in the air. And then in terms of the empathy, I spent part of my career in product. And so as a marketer and then also in product, you often see the throwing the ball over the fence back and forth. But it all comes down, the success is building that empathy and speaking the same language, which I think is something I take forward all the time. I still have, some product functions, but as we think through it, I think empathy is the key to successful collaboration.
Exactly. And I think almost like a convertible form of empathy, right? When you're in the client services business, that's kind of one set of stakeholders that need to be handled and managed in a certain way, and they have their own kind of expectations. Whereas it might be slightly different when you're more on the telco side of dealing with like internal, product managers and the like.
Oh, absolutely. And I think also the way work gets done, right? AT&T is a very old company with a very rich history. And so work is done in a very specific way. Amazon is famous, of course, for how work gets done, but it's completely apples and oranges. The adoption of the leadership principles and how that transforms into how decisions are made is actually incredibly inspiring. I was super nervous coming to Amazon with the narratives and all of these things, and I have become a fangirl. I love it to the point where I would take all this stuff forward. So, how work gets done is really, really interesting, and each experience really helps you build.
It follows you, and I think it really kind of, lends itself to the DNA, right?
Absolutely.
I spent a little bit of time back at Amazon, and I think, I still kind of lean on those leadership principles that help kind of guide decisions in whatever I'm doing in a professional manner.
Absolutely.
But when you get into investments in Amazon's kind of strategic way of thinking, Amazon has really long been a leader in shoppable video. I think last year alone, I read a statistic that more than 1 billion people across just the US and India alone watched Amazon live streams across different desktop formats, mobile formats, Fire TV. I'd love if maybe you can give us just a little bit of brief history on Amazon's experiences in the shoppable video segment.
Would love to. So we started streaming in 2016. So we were well before the curve, which I think positions us really well. And that's why we've become experts in shoppable video content. And then in 2019, we opened it up to brands to start streaming on themselves. And in 2020, with our Amazon Live Creator app to creators. And it's just continued to grow from there. And that's for live streaming. But then there's also shoppable video, which is pre-recorded content that you can find all around the world across a number of different storefronts. So beyond, you mentioned the stat of the US and India, but shoppable video is already around the globe. And so we've continued to grow and evolve, and we're really proud of where it's come and how it's added value to customers across their shopping journeys. Ultimately, our mission is to make Amazon our customers' favorite place for shoppable video so we can add value and help them make confident, trusted purchase decisions. We want to help them to feel good and give them what they need. And so video of all formats really helps to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think what you guys have done a really, really good job of is really making it easy and seamless for people to leverage the formats and the platforms in a way that creates value for them. I got to speak with Josh Richards a little bit yesterday, and he was actually telling me about how he was using the Amazon Live to help him prep for this trip. And he's like, it was a very easy and seamless and value additive experience of like figuring out what am I going to wear, and actually just being able to go into Amazon Live and finding content that mirrored what he was looking for, and then a very clean and seamless path to purchase. It seems like a win-win for everyone, right? And I know you guys have made some big announcements this week with the new shoppable channel, both on Prime Video and Freevee, and a new partnership with Group M to help create new content for the channel. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and why you're developing in that space and why Amazon is making a more concerted effort into the shoppable video segment.
So we announced our partnership with Group M to co-develop original series for brands. And so what's going to be really great about that is that brands are going to have this opportunity to create cinematic, high-quality content that's longer form, that really is true and authentic to their brand ethos, while being able to connect with customers in new ways, which is a lot of what makes this time really, really exciting to be in the space. Shoppable video, creator economy, all these things are converging. And so in April, we launched our new Amazon Live Fast channel, which is available on Prime Video and Freevee. And with that, we launched our new Shop the Show technology, which I personally am very excited about and have already been using quite a bit. And so what that allows you to do is when you're watching our Amazon Live Fast channel, you can pull up the Amazon Shopping app on your mobile device, type in Shop the Show, and then you're able to see a carousel of all those products that you might be inspired by. So Josh mentioned how seamless it is. Well, you don't have to pause. It removes any bits of friction, and you can really keep immersing yourself in the content while taking action. We see that 75% of adults, US adults, have a device in their hand while watching TV, and one out of 3 of them is shopping. And so, removing that friction and continuing to innovate on that experience is really important. And so think about the opportunity that that's going to create for brands, where we can create that longer form content for them along with complementary assets that'll be the shoulder content for driving awareness and consideration, and how all of that can work together to really create some meaningful connections.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned opportunity, and I think there's a ton of it. So I guess two questions kind of building off of that, because I think live shopping in the social world has been a very elusive category segment, but Amazon seems to have found quite a bit of success in the segment, and it's something you guys are, continuing to invest in. Who do you see from your perspective is actually consuming live shoppable content? And then secondarily, where do you guys see room for growth from an audience perspective and people that you feel you can bring into that segment?
It's a great question. So what's great about live shopping and shoppable video, this is a true statement for both pre-recorded and live, is that there's a utility across segments and across parts of the shopping journey. I think that's what makes it so interesting and exciting. I have yet to find a demo or a category where it doesn't really provide customers with that value, because the shopping journey is so complicated and there's so many steps and you can go in and out of it. But we're seeing a lot of success, and we're really excited about what we're seeing in terms of adoption with millennials. And then Gen Z is actually our fastest growing segment.
Yep.
So I think that sets us up for quite a lot of growth as we keep going. And we're truly just getting started. I mean, live shopping is supposed to hit 67 billion by 2027. So it's really, really growing. Adoption is continuing to scale.
It's almost like we're kind of in like this paradigm shift of this is sort of like the world that they know, right?
Oh, absolutely. So I have two daughters, and they are Gen Alpha. And the way that they utilize technology is just incredible to watch. There's no friction. They just seamlessly utilize these technologies. So as somebody who's building, you can think about where we're going to go in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And it makes me really bullish about customer utility in the future and experiences we can build.
Yeah, and when you think about Amazon is in a very unique position given the wide catalog of what a consumer can purchase on Amazon. Have you guys found that any specific verticals or product categories just tend to resonate a little bit better in the live shopping format?
I think what's great about video content, it kind of comes back to where I was going before. There's utility across the board. And so, sure, there are certain categories that may be more demonstrable. There are other categories that require a little bit more research, where customers may have more questions in terms of what's in the box or how it works or the specs. There's other categories that suit themselves really nice for just product integrations and more entertainment leading content. So really the sky's the limit, and it's very broad in terms of category appeal. I have yet to see a category that it doesn't fit.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because, you can think about all of the different consideration phases tied to the vertical and how Amazon Live can really fit into each phase of that funnel, whether it's consideration for a purchase that I might have to talk to my wife about before I, order a treadmill, right? But there's also other things that I can see, and there's a completely frictionless experience of just that one click to buy directly from there. And pivoting, I think, more to the content that lives on these platforms, as we've seen creators really evolve and move past just social and starting to move on to other platforms. We work with a few of the live streaming platforms, and we know it's a little bit of a different animal, so to speak, than creating an Instagram video or a YouTube short. I'd love for you to maybe tell us a bit about how you see content that is made for TV or content that is made to be consumed on TV or in a live format, differing from the kind of traditional influencer type content that, we were kind of used to a few years ago.
Yeah, so what I think is underestimated is how these different types of content can work together. So for the big screen, you might have something that's a little bit more cinematic, more highly produced, but there's still a place then for that social content. And then, also a shoppable video that may appear on a product detail page versus our Inspire tab for inspiration on Amazon's storefront. So what we see is that the funnel is collapsing. And in media or in marketing, we always talk full funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel. What I'm seeing is it's collapsing. The consumer is seamlessly transitioning from one place to another. And they could go from inspiration to wanting to make a click and back to inspiration and back and back and back. So I think when it comes to the content development, it's really, really critical to think about the various objectives and creating purposely and intentionally creating a number of assets that can all seamlessly work together. So maybe something more cinematic for the big screen, but creating complementary or adjacent shoppable content, social content, display and media content from a brand and an advertising perspective, and thinking about how all of that works better together. And in fact, that's what we're already seeing. We're seeing that the sum of its parts is actually significantly more effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always an understated point of how, sometimes we think in our own worlds of formats and platforms, and we sometimes forget about that end consumer and that end viewer. And what I think really has been underpinned by a lot of your answers that I know you guys believe is that the consumer only sees one channel and one voice as they engage both with the creator and then secondarily with Amazon. I know that you guys have been incredibly thoughtful in how you've rolled out Amazon Live. I'd love for you to maybe tell our audience a little bit about, what does the selection or thought process look like as you think about both brands that you want to bring into your ecosystem, as well as creators that you're choosing to partner with?
So I think the answer is actually quite similar, whether it's a brand or a creator. And it's funny because we've been talking about this for quite some time, but it's also been a theme here in Cannes, is how critical authenticity is. So authenticity is really the secret for a brand being successful, a creator being successful, matching them together, and whether that match works. If it feels inauthentic, the customer's going to feel it. And then that content doesn't really resonate or make sense. And, one of the things we've seen with creators, which is incredible, is they have this very special talent of making a one-to-many relationship feel one-to-one because the customer feels seen. And, for me, let's say I'm looking for, a fashion influencer. It's someone who kind of looks like me and is my size, and I can see how the clothes will fit. And whether she likes it or not, it's still helpful for me, and so on and so forth. And if a brand were to integrate with her, it's a natural fit for what she might be wearing. That's fine with me, right? Because it's still supernatural. But if the brand match is inauthentic to the creator, that's where it's not as successful. And so that's really a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we look at, whether that's content development that we're creating organically or our creators are, uploading and sharing and streaming on their own, or brand partnerships.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you talked about the consumption habits of who your viewers actually are. Because I think if there's one thing, that we're seeing that I think started with millennials, but is getting more profound with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, is really the level of authenticity you have to have.
I mean, they can see it a mile away. Think about how that sets them up. And it also sets up creators for better success and brands for more success, right? In all ways, I love the direction towards authenticity.
In the world of marketing and advertising, there's endless amounts of metrics and acronyms and themes. Just a couple, right? And obviously we have heard no metrics or themes or anything like that in any of the content across all the stages here. But, what it really distills down to, which I think brings out how genuinely good the work can be, is it's almost like a value exchange, right? Like it's almost very binary in the sense of, are you providing me with value or are you not? And I think creators really have that level of authenticity. And you kind of mentioned it too, of how, a creator can have that one-to-many connection, but also bring you individual value in a very relatable, personalized way.
I mean, I love the topic of thinking about measurement because to creators who are building their content and thinking about their content strategies, or to brands that are trying to deliver for success, whether that's building awareness or consideration or, eventually conversion, metrics are very important. And the ability to measure is really important to make strong decisions. As a former Amazonian, we like to dive deep. It is really important. But when it comes to shoppable video and live streaming, because it's new and it's a new format, what ends up happening is that we have to rethink that measurement approach needs to be, because of the fact that it's new. Think differently about it. And we want to think about what are the objectives of what we're trying to achieve and what are the right metrics to use for that collapsed funnel ultimately, right? So for us, we look at, metrics like new to brand sales as we think about awareness and consideration, but we also look at CTR. It doesn't necessarily just need to be what would traditionally be a more upper funnel metric. There's also something that's a little bit more lower funnel. and you can bring the two together. But it's thinking about what the brand is trying to achieve and creating a real measurement plan based off of those objectives versus just kind of using the standard status quo.
Yeah, I think, you hit it right on the head. There are, in some instances, can be outdated measurement models that I think you have to kind of take into context: the channel, the format, the outcome, the product itself. Is it a new product, right, that we need to do a bit of education on? Or is it a product, that's been in the market for 20 plus years and has had billions of dollars invested in marketing and creating mindshare around that product, right? So there's no really one size fits all policy. And I think that's kind of like the exciting part.
I mean, you started talking about new products, and when it comes to live streaming, there's many great use cases. So to your point, existing products and telling deeper brand stories and so on and so forth. But for new products, live just makes sense in so many ways in driving that awareness and consideration. And we recently launched a new product within the beauty category. And what we saw, we created some live streams, we created a number of assets that would be used for media, I think display, online video, social, etc. So really a lot of what I've been talking about. And what we found is the next day after the live stream, we reached 76% new to brand sales. But then we also learned that the display media works significantly harder. So we actually beat CTR and ROAS benchmarks for the category. So it's the sum being greater than its parts. And my hypothesis is that is a lot of pairing the brand authentically with the right creator and creating that set of assets that really helps the customer to discover and drive awareness. But then also, once they're watching and learning and, giving them the ability to immediately be able to purchase. My leader loves to say that we want to remove the glass between the creator and the audience. And it's something that I just love. And you really see that come to life in such a powerful way with use cases like that.
Yeah, and I think you touched on, another point that we see quite a bit as well is really the halo effect of creator content spilling into other formats where you can reach consumers. The display stat that you gave was also very fascinating because there's just so much utility in creator content and it's very transferable.
Oh, absolutely. So Amazon Ads this week launched a new research study from ads to zeitgeist. And there's a stat in there that I love. I'm also excited and fascinated by, which is that 63% of customers surveyed believe that advertising can shape culture. Think about the opportunity that provides for brands. And a lot of that also is a huge opportunity for creators. And that's where that authenticity can come in as well, if you think about what we can do with that across the board.
That's an incredibly powerful notion for creators to be able to start to have a seat at that table in shaping culture. And I think Amazon's been incredibly forefront at putting creators really at the center of this, where in many ways they've kind of been like the gatekeepers or the tastemakers or the validators. But now kind of being on the front end of culture is a really unique proposition. And with the formats that Amazon has, it really gives them a unique platform.
Yeah, when I saw that stat from the Amazon Ads research team, I was so fascinated exactly for that reason, because there's so many opportunities across the Amazon Ads canvas. And that's a lot of how we work with brands for Amazon Live, right? We are talking about the live stream, but we're talking about all the ways that we can provide value across the Amazon Ads canvas and thinking through all of that together to ultimately drive that value to customers.
Yeah, and you guys have quite the canvas. Do you see areas beyond where you are today that you see shoppable video adding value throughout the Amazon ecosystem?
Yes, for sure. I think the sky's the limit. I truly believe that we are just getting started. And I think in the coming years, as we think about opportunities within the US, as we think about perhaps opportunities around the globe, there's lots of things that we can think about and experiences that we can build that add value to customers, add value, most importantly, add value to our creators, add value to brands, and ideally all three together as well.
And you mentioned beauty before, which obviously is a lot of the bread and butter of the creator economy and just works so well in those formats. Have there been any verticals or categories that have surprised you, that have been highly effective, that on the surface you might not have thought, this would work well on shoppable video, but then you see some data and it's kind of interesting that this particular category works incredibly well in this format?
What I would say has positively surprised me in a way, where are we going and what more value we can add, is actually how much we can offer and how much value we can add for brands that don't sell on Amazon. So, immediately when you think about Amazon Live and the categories, right, everybody's head goes to products that are sold on Amazon, of course, right? But we recently did this campaign with Virgin Voyages, just as an example. Yep. It was so cool. We sent some creators onto one of their cruise ships, and it gave our customers this incredibly immersive opportunity to feel like they were on the ship and learn about it, but it was also entertaining and it was fun to watch. And customers that were watching were able to just click through if they wanted to learn more, book a vacation themselves, and so on and so forth. So I think I've been very interested in brands that don't sell on Amazon, but that I feel like really took it to the next level for me, and I'm really excited about that.
So in thinking about the creator economy holistically, and there's been obviously a lot of content. I think influencers and creators has been a really big theme of Cannes across all of the stages in programming. From your vantage point, what predictions might you have about what might we be talking about when we do this interview next year?
I think even though creators and shoppability and so on and so forth are such a theme right now, I think we are still early in this convergence of creator economy and commerce and entertainment, and all of these things are really converging, which is creating so many opportunities, like our Shop the Show technology and this collapsed funnel and how all of these things work together. So I would say, I think a year from now, I'd love to see how all of we've built and we've experimented our way in to having the right foundation, because I think creators are only going to become more and more influential over time. I think it's $500 billion by 2030. I
think that was the Goldman Sachs number.
Exactly. Huge. So it feels like it's super mature but I think the creator space is just getting started. And as you layer in commerce capabilities, I think it's going to be really exciting to see.
And I'm sure it's also like looking out the rearview mirror. Like I'm sure like Julie 10 years ago, seeing the advent of mobile video, could you have ever thought that this is where it would go, right?
So I have always been someone who loves future planning. I love to build. I love to kind of be on that cutting edge of what's coming. And so, where I got to be involved as we were building new video distribution platforms earlier on, things like the Shop the Show technology and, some of the other things that we're seeing are things that I was excited to be thinking about, if we could get there. And it's so amazing to now see that be very real. And so as we think through the next 10 years, I will hold my predictions to myself because I want them to come true. I think there's a lot of really goodness on the horizon.
It's fascinating to, you mentioned I was at Amazon. I was at Amazon from 2011 to 2013. And what I was focused on at that time, and what I think sets Amazon so well for success, is Amazon's been thinking about social commerce really since 2010, 2011 now. So I think it's something that, Amazon has obviously put a lot of thought and consideration into, and it's really exciting to kind of see how you and the team are really kind of leading these new frontiers, both with what works here, but also when you think about, live shopping, which is almost like an imported feature, from other markets as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think once there's new opportunities, it starts as a seed. And then little by little, that development happens over time. And oftentimes the industry and customers and so on and so forth don't necessarily see it and feel it for quite some time. I think we're at this incredible inflection for both live streaming and shoppable video as a whole, where we're going to see a lot of growth in the coming years.
Well, we're very excited to see that, observe it, hopefully partner. And we're really excited, hopefully a year from now to see how the program has grown and matured. And hopefully we imagine there are going to be more partners and brands and creators moving in. So
yes.
Julie, thank you so much for the time. And thank you to Amazon for hosting us. And tune in next week.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Earned by CreatorIQ. CreatorIQ is your all-in-one solution to grow, manage, scale, and measure your influencer marketing program. Ready to unlock the power of the creator economy? Get started with a demo today at CreatorIQ.com.